Hello guys, this is Hexagon Zero, and are you guys ready to hear me talk for 2 hours? Oh boy. Okay, so how I'm going to be recording this is that I'm going to record it in bursts. Essentially, I do 1 hour tonight, and then I do 1 hour in the morning. Oh boy. And if you're wondering what the heck's going on, check out Multiplayer Mondays episode number 41. It contains the preview to this, as well as the first 11 minutes of the footage you are currently watching. But just to give a brief recap, as you hear my other laptop boot up in the background, this is a game called PlanetSide 2. It is a free-to-play game available on Steam, and it should be making its way over to PS4 soon, I believe. I'm not too sure about Xbox, but I remember it being put onto, released onto PlayStation 4. Or maybe even 3. I don't really know. I think the PlayStation 4 is the only console that's able to currently handle it, because it is absolutely massive. Essentially, there are 3 worlds with planes of destruction where you can fight on, essentially. It's not battlefield destruction, it's, you know, you can burn things, you can blow things up, but none of this is actually... Like, I couldn't blow a hole in the ground. That wouldn't work. But there are 4 continents. There's Hassan, Amerish, Indar, and... I got this wrong in my preview, but it's Americ? It begins with an E, ends with a C. I think. Maybe. I don't know. Google it. Whatever. So, yeah. And there are 5-6 classes to choose from. There is the combat medic, the infiltrator, the what's the other guy? Engineer, the heavy assault. There's one more. I always forget it. Hold on, I have another Google in front of me. This is essentially me talking for 2 hours, and this is kind of what it's going to be like. So, minimize and play this in the background if you want, or just watch the footage. I do get some pretty good stuff in there, and I've just done a quick run through. Actually, the total runtime was actually 2 hours and 30 minutes, but I cut out 30 minutes of footage that was just me. Essentially, it was just crap happening. Of course, there's going to be some perceived crap happening inside of the video, but typically it's because I left it in because it was illustrating a feature of this game. Anyway, I'm looking at the class list right now. There's the Infiltrator, the Light Assault, which is essentially a... actually, I'll list the class abilities while I'm at it. Each class has its own ability. The Infiltrator has the ability to activate a cloak. The Light Assault has a jetpack. The Combat Medic has the ability to heal in a large area. The Engineer has the ability to plop down an anti-personnel turret, an anti-vehicle turret, or an auto turret. The Heavy Assault has the ability to use a shield to give them extra damage absorption. And then there is the Max, which is essentially a giant walking exoskeleton with tank guns mounted on each arm. Yeah. So rather cool. I'm playing, of course, in this footage right here as the Heavy Assault. It is my chosen class, because I do like that extra shield, and since the Heavy Assault has so much health anyway, I always run with Nano-Weave Armor. Speaking of Nano-Weave Armor, I can get into the actual upgrades for the classes. There is ability slot, suit slot, grenade slot, and utility slot. I'm just going to talk about the Heavy Assault, because if I went through every class, it would take me, well, 2 hours. But anyway... For the Heavy Assault, to choose from in the shield market, you've got the nanite mesh generator, the adrenaline shield, and the resist shield. A brief overview about how all of them work. The nanite mesh generator, it absorbs the damage, so there's no direct impact to your shield level. It is its own separate stack. But the thing is that the higher power level, because you can only activate these for a limited time, or at least everybody's but the Engineer, because you can turn that one as long as the turret is still alive. So yeah, yeah. But the nanite mesh generator, the more energy you have, the more damage it will absorb, and then it will deplete over time. And the lower energy you have, the less damage it will absorb. That's why I ran with the nanite mesh generator for a while, but yeah, I got tired of it pretty quickly because it just wasn't giving me that buff that I wanted. The adrenaline shield is, well, essentially the more kills you get, the more powerful it gets, or it refreshes itself depending on how long it is between your kills. So essentially it's a massive kill shield, and shields like that I do not particularly enjoy, because it takes like in the footage you're watching now, I'm wandering aimlessly through a base that was previously being used as a battleground, and because I got left behind, yeah, it's kind of boring. So that means the adrenaline shield would sometimes be wasted, because a lot of the time you are left behind simply because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and your galaxies, which are the large carrier ships, have already left. So you either need to buy a vehicle. Of course, there is no vehicle selling station in this area, so I essentially have to hitch a ride with someone. I was trying to go for that Sunderer, but yeah, no, that didn't work out. And I will get to all the vehicles in a second here. But anyway, moving on with the heavy assault, we have the resist shield, which is my chosen shield of choice. What it does is it does a percentage decrease on the total damage taken when it is active, and then that increases the more you level up these items. And yeah, that seems to be the most effective item, especially when you combine it with one of the suit slots, nano-weave armor, which increases your total health. You could also increase use advanced shield capacitors to increase your shields, and therefore technically have more of a buffer whenever your shield is activated. However, your shield, it recharges slower than the adrenaline shield and the nanite shield, so just keep that in mind when you're playing around with suit slots. You also have an ammunition belt, which does exactly what it sounds like it would do. Flak armor, which decreases the amount of damage you can take from explosions. A grenade bandolier, who, well, holds grenades. A munitions pouch, which is probably a rocket pouch. And then, of course, nano-weave armor. And then in the grenade slot, you can have an anti-vehicle grenade or a concussion grenade. All classes come equipped with the ability to take grenades, like standard frag grenades, I guess, but you can upgrade to different types. As utility, you have C4 available to you. There are multiple different utilities pertaining to each class. Feel free to hop on to the planetside wikia.com to check them all out for yourself. Okay. So, moving on. The heavy assault has LMGs, essentially they're light machine guns, sorry, and they're used, well, for high ammo. We all know what light machine guns do, I don't need to go into that. But anyway, they can use heavy guns, shotguns, submachine guns, and battle rifles. Every class has a secondary weapon of pistols. The advanced tool for the heavy assault is a rocket launcher, and yeah, it essentially goes down from there. So, vehicles in Planetside 2. There are a few. And mayhaps before I should get into anything more in depth, I should talk about the way the class system works. Essentially, there are three classes. There's the Vanu, the new conglomerate, which is kind of the NCS that I was explaining in the preview. I say kind of because they yell out that they're the NCS a lot. And then there's Vanu and the conglomerate and the Terrans. They're characterized by particular color schemes. The Vanu typically are purple with glowing blue, greenish elements. The new conglomerate are typically blue, coated with white-ish armor and sometimes yellow. And then the Terrans are red, black, and sometimes darker grays, and lighter grays for that matter. But anyway, so each class has its own different, not classes, sorry. There's the classes of the Infiltrator, Light Assault, Combat Medic, Engineer, Heavy Assault, and Max. The races, as I should have said, are the new conglomerate, Vanu, and the Terrans. You can choose whatever you want. Each race typically, all the starting weapons and all the weapons for that matter are exactly the same, so you're not missing out on much. It's really just, well, your preference, maybe what your friends are playing. You want to all play together with friends, then it helps if you choose the same race, because, well, every race is trying to kill off the other two. And that gets me into the actual map design. And it's designed kind of triangularly. There's three main bases called the warp gates for the continent, and then the sides essentially spread out from those warp gates and fight over the land. Once one side rarely can gain dominance over the land, they get a certain bonus. For example, I think I know that one of the bonuses is 50% off nanite to be used in vehicle spawning. But yeah, okay, so now that gets me back to vehicles. Let me open up the wiki page on that. Essentially, vehicles look different for each individual race. So, hold on, bringing up a list. So, for everybody, so all the vehicles that can be used for every single race, you have the Lightning, which is a tank, a Galaxy, which is the heavy character, a Harasser, which is a four-wheeled, kind of, yeah, it's a four-wheeled car, essentially. It's a light scout vehicle. There's the Liberator, which is a three-man gunship. The Sunderer, which is a mobile spawn point and resupply station. The Flash, which is a small quad bike. And the Valkyrie, which is a two-man aerial gunner plane thing, essentially. And then there are the class-specific tanks and or fighters. So, for the new conglomerate, the chosen tank is the Vanguard, a two-man... All the tanks, I believe, are two-man, but they all look different and they all do different things. And all fire different types of projectiles on, obviously. The Vanguard, which is a tank for the new conglomerate, and then the Reaver, which is a flying ship, essentially. Then there's the Terran Republic, which have the Prowler, is their two-man tank, and the Mosquito, which is their kind of one-person aerial vehicle. And then finally the Vanu have the Mag Rider, which are floating tanks, kind of like the tanks from Star Wars, if you guys have ever played the Empire War series. And then their one-man aerial vehicle is called the Scythe. And it costs vehicle credits to be able to purchase these. Although I don't really ever worry about how many vehicle credits I use, because they replenish in about 3 minutes. So your starting cap is about 750, and it's exactly 750 for that matter. And yeah, so you essentially spend those. I know it's 450 vehicle points for a max unit, and because maxes are the only way you can spawn in as a max is, well, by spending vehicle points. And then the same thing is true for tanks for air vehicles. Wow, it's only been 12 minutes and my voice is already going, "You haven't done this in a while. What are you doing?" Okay. So that's kind of the gameplay that I've introduced to you here. You'll see me use several classes. Most primarily, it'll be the Infiltrator, Heavy Assault, and or... There is some max footage and some engineering footage as well. Not much combat medic, and no light assault. Because I never really liked the light assault until very recently, when I actually figured out how to use it correctly. Which is get on top of buildings and shoot with a high ammunition rifle. That is the primary focus of the light assault. It's also very easy to rack up certs. And actually, before I move on, I might as well explain the leveling system as well. With every XP level, essentially, I haven't quite figured out the system yet, but essentially, as you play, you pick up these, or at least you are awarded with these things called certs, and those certs can be used to put towards purchases of upgrades and new weapons and stuff like that. Typically, when you're just starting out, like I am, I'm only a battle rank, I want to say 6, maybe 9. You have very, very limited supply of certs, so you gotta kind of pick and choose where you put them. I would recommend putting them into character builds first, before you start putting it into weapons, because the character build is kind of what it's gonna get you through the most of everything. In the weapons, well, you can put a point here or there into them. Like for most of my weapons, I always buy at least a sight for it, because the iron sights are typically shit. So, yeah.
Out of that area.
And then I should probably explain the entire point of PlanetSide 2. The goal is to capture every single base on the map, and those bases give you bonuses depending on what they're linked to. And essentially, I'm playing as the new conglomerate fighting the Vanu. My chosen race is the new conglomerate, simply because, well, they looked awesome. The Vanu looked awesome too, but they were being overplayed in my opinion. I know that's very hipstery of me, but I do have a Terran account where I do play as a Terran, but I don't play as a Terran nearly as much as I play as the new conglomerate. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. News. Specifically, gaming news in the last little while. By little while, I mean a month. I'm essentially only going to be covering the big things, because covering every single little bit of gaming news is going to be very, very impossible. Or at least, very, very improbable. So, one of the biggest items that I found there to be, you can... the Halo Chief Master... The Halo Master Chili... Oh, my tongue just doesn't want to work today. The Halo Chief Master... Oh boy. It's gonna be one of those nights. Okay. The Halo Master Chief Edition. It comes with basically all the Halo games, except for 4, I want to say? Yeah, sounds about right. And they've just decided they're gonna add Halo ODST into it. So... yeah, free game. Granted, it will be a download, and people are going, but my hard drive. It's a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and reportedly, you can shove whatever size hard drive you want into the Xbox One. So you could just pick up a 4 terabyte guy from any retailer, essentially, for about $120, and guess what? You now have 4 terabytes. Reportedly, I have not had that confirmed, simply because I don't own a console, and no one in the house does, so... yeah. I suppose I could head down to my local EB Games and say, hey, does it do that? But yeah, lazy. It's also Christmas Eve, so sorry. And what you just saw smoking in ruin there was a generator. The generators power well, building shields essentially to stop either vehicles from going through. Mostly it's infantry that can go through the outer defenses, and then it's infantry and vehicles that are stopped as you get closer and closer to the capture point on the bases. So, another cool thing that's come out is the Batman Arkham Knight Ace Chemicals trailers, which if you haven't seen yet, go check them out. There's 1, 2, and 3 parts. I would recommend doing them all in sequence, because otherwise, well, the footage you're seeing wouldn't make sense. Halo 5 got a beta. I'm actually going to bounce all over the place in the news here, because I'm just going through a list that was compiled in 10 minutes. Or something like that. We're not even going to talk about the interview. The movie, it's... I can't decide on whether or not it was a giant marketing ploy, or whether this was actually an issue. Either way, I don't bloody care. I didn't want to go see the movie in the first place. Although, if the entire point of making this movie, or doing this, was an ad marketing campaign, job well done. But I don't really want to see it anyway. The Seth Rogen-Franco combination, yeah. I've gotten a little tired of it. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Far Cry 4. I will be doing a Let's Play of it. I swear, as soon as I get my computer, which I will talk about later, what my final order was, and what I actually just ordered today from the NCIX Boxing Day sales. And also, just speaking from a person who has retail experience, be nice to the guys behind the counter, or the guys or girls, for that matter, behind the counter. Half of them are probably seasonals, and the other half simply don't care enough anymore. Well, maybe they do care if they're really, really nice, but they're doing their best. My heart goes out to all the people who still have to work retail on Christmas. Anyway. So, The Legend of Korra TV show recently came to an end, and there's been a whole bunch of mind-blowing stuff revealed about it. I don't know, I stopped watching after Season 1, simply because Season 2 was really, really boring. So, yeah. I think there was a... yeah, I'm looking at it. Oh, yeah, it's a spoiler. I'm not going to say what I was just about to. Anyways, moving down the list. Oh, Game of the Years. Shadow of Mordor has been winning basically every Game of the Year competition it's ever matched up against, except for, I believe one website gave Game of the Year to Master Chief Collection, and the other to Destiny, and another to Destiny, but, whatever. I would have chosen for my Game of the Year Shadow of Mordor, even though I haven't played it for that long, about 10 hours, or maybe 9 hours, and most of that time was spent killing orcs. It would be my Game of the Year just based on that short little view, simply because it was amazing. I love the Tolkien universe, it's just fantastic, and Shadow of Mordor really clicked for me. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Evolve! A new title that is launching on, I want to say February 10th? Or February, either really February 10th or February 20th. I can't remember which date it is. I could actually just Google it right now, because I have the power! And 2 hours! Evolve release date... Yep, February 10th. Okay, 2015, that is. Another recommendation I would make. I recently was told by an EB Games employee, and I'm pretty sure this is true for most video game retail stores, when you pre-order a game, you probably hear that and you think, oh, they just want to take our money, and it's locked into the system. At least I know with the Canadian EB Games, when you do have money put down on a pre-order, it ensures your copy of the game, and essentially on launch day, they get shipped a number of games based on the pre-orders. So say a store had 4 pre-orders, guess what? They're only going to receive maybe 12 copies. So that means that every single one of you who have been waiting for the game and just want to pick it up on launch day without pre-ordering, the majority of you are probably going to be out of luck. So pre-order the game, if you really want it. I mean, I don't pre-order anymore, except if it's from the studio that I trust. Essentially anybody but Ubisoft or EA or... Nope, that's really just the two. So essentially, if it's not from them, I will pre-order it if it looks good. For example, I have pre-ordered GTA 5 for the PC, as well as Batman Arkham Knight. But I have very strict rules about myself for pre-ordering, so... yeah. Do it as you will. But anyway, so if you're going to pre-order a game, please go do it. It's really easy. And I know companies like EB Games, at least you can put down just $5, and then if you don't actually want the game, just cancel the pre-order, and hey, guess what? That's $5 in the system that you can use for something later. Of course, it is $5 in the system that you can't actually get back. But oh well. Until they change their policy, we can't do anything about that. But anyway, Battlefield Hardline. There have been a lot of hype for it. Personally, I'm still apprehensive for it. I think it was based completely on Battlefield 4 in the last beta that we played, and the release date has been bounced around faster than a bouncy ball in a bouncing castle. I have no idea what to expect from this game. Supposedly, it's supposed to be absolutely fantastic, but again, I'm apprehensive, and I do not think I will be picking up this particular Battlefield title. Yeah. I know that one game mode was a rescue, something like that. It looks really cool, and that almost convinced me to buy it, but I really it didn't appeal to me. Not anymore. And maybe in a couple of weeks after it's released, assuming that there is no absolute problems with it for launch, I will pick it up, and I may or may not do a video series on that, but I guess we'll just have to see. Okay, moving on to the next item on my list. That's actually no longer relevant, and so is that. Actually, something that happened in Canadian news. If anybody who lives on the west coast of the North American continent, specifically in, I'm trying to think of the states right now. Which one is the top left? Washington? And then Oregon? And then California, I believe? I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm missing out any. There's 50 of you guys. It's impossible to remember you all. Or, well, highly unlikely for me to try. But essentially, anybody on the west coast in the, what's the name of that island on Canada's coast. Vancouver Island, I want to say? Yeah, I think it's Vancouver Island. Anyway, so essentially anybody in that area, and on the BC side, and maybe even a little bit of the Yukon, they're essentially sitting on a giant tectonic plate meeting, and right now the two plates are grinding against each other, and they're stuck. So there's all this pressure just building up. And they're sitting on top of something you might have heard called the Big One. It's essentially an earthquake that is going to make every earthquake look like a toddler running on the ground. It is going to be absolutely massive. Anyway, there were 5 earthquakes off the coast in the Pacific Ocean near the shoreline in quick succession. Supposedly, they were between 4 and 5 degrees in magnitude, and they did not involve a precursor. Personally, from my limited knowledge of plate tectonics and geology, this is a good thing, because rather than having the big one happen all at once, the best case scenario is a lot of tiny ones when the plates grind off of each other and one of them eventually slips onto the other. If you're thinking about this giant 2012 dramatized shifting of the land, no! Too much gravity. Gravity's a thing. It doesn't work like that. Don't worry. Worry if you're on the west coast, because if it does slip at once, it's going to be an earthquake the size of... Well, the name implies it. It's an earthquake. The earth will shift a lot. So yeah, be wary of that. And by the way, normally earthquakes you have a window as to when they're going to happen. With the big one, you don't. It could happen it could happen 5 minutes from now, it could happen tomorrow, or it could happen in 20 million or 20,000 years. I believe with the highest estimate for it. My hope is that it happens in short bursts over the 20,000 years, because that would be the most likely best case scenario. Well, that's most likely the best case scenario, not the best case scenario. Oh, you know what I mean. Anyway, moving on from world destruction news. Assassin's Creed Unity Seasons Pass holders now can get a couple of games for free if they want. So not a couple of games at the same time, you can choose between a couple of games and get that for free, one of which being the entirety of Far Cry 4. You don't really get it for free because you obviously paid for a Seasons Pass, but you know what I mean. Hopefully it's not completely broken, because I actually picked up Assassin's Creed Unity through a website that sells you game codes at really, 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 really low prices. It's kind of like the European version of eBay for Steam codes. So yeah, that's kind of the big news that I've compiled. Well, Dying Light. It's a zombie... Dying Light is only worth... in my opinion, it's only worth mentioning because the fact that it's kind of redefining zombie games right now, because zombie games right now have gotten to the point where it's like, okay, another zombie survival. Thank you. We needed another one. Oh, this one's got crafting. Fantastic. I'll put it over here with the other 25. But Dying Light is redefining that, at least in my opinion. And it will be very interesting to see what it looks like. And also, if I was to go off some other games that are going to be released soon, The Order 1866, or 1886, sorry. Cool setting, cool kind of plot, repetitive gameplay based upon the footage that has been released. It looks like Mass Effect without Mass Effect in it. It's just the same cover-based shooting. Granted, interesting weapons, but still, not really that appealing. The Evil Within, big horror letdown in my opinion. It's a jump scare game. If you want skin peeling horror, go for that guy. Otherwise, leave it alone by Alien Isolation. And then, of course, Tom Clancy's The Division. No word as of how that is going around. Ubisoft, for once, has decided to clam up and stop the hype train, which is fantastic. Oh, right! There's another game that I have not included on my list. No Man's Sky. This is a game that I am super excited for. If you guys have ever heard of probably a more popular game called Star Citizen, imagine that with a slightly more comic book-like art style and set in an infinite universe. And now allow me to clarify what I mean by infinite universe. You're probably thinking, oh yeah, infinite universe. Yes, it's really big. It's not actually infinite. There will be a player who finds the edge of the universe and posts about it, and there's a big uproar. No. If you found the edge of No Man's Sky, if you found the edge of the map, you would have probably been flying in a straight line for 16,000 years. And that's not game time, buddy. That is in real time. Have fun with that. Because the devs recently released an estimate as to how big this game is, and allow me to put it into perspective by directly quoting them from their website. How big is No Man's Sky?
This area is restricted.
F billion. No, not X.
In a
X.
restricted area.
Okay.
Clear out of that
So
area.
originally, No Man's Sky was programmed because it's random planet generation. So it's all programmed from a bank of certain set features, and then it's just altered on a scale of 1 to 10. In layman's terms, that's how procedure generation works. It's not actually done like that. You can have as many scale numbers as you want, 1 to 10,000, or more or less. It's just, yeah, essentially to give you an idea of how it works. So it was originally built as a 32-bit number system, which made it big, but the dev team decided to make more work for themselves, and they switched to a 64-bit number system. So that means the number of planets, it's about 2 to the power of 64. So that's 2 times 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 2, and all the way up to 64, or the remaining 51, whatever. I can't remember what number I got to. The number of 2s, that is.
Leave the restricted
So
area immediately.
that exponential increase would make the game, if you spent 1 second on each planet without bathroom breaks, it would take 5 billion years to visit each planet. 5 billion years. The Earth, Sun, Sol. The Sun is good. The Sol is the actual astronomical name for it. SOL. It is going to burn out in 4.6 billion years. We are going to be dead before someone will ever finish exploring this game. Yeah, that's how big this game is, and it looks awesome too. And the music is amazing too. I love 65 Days of Static. I was introduced to them at the E3 trailer for No Man's Sky, and since then I have liked their music quite a bit. So yeah, that's another game I am really excited for. It's not slated to come out in 2015, doesn't have a release date yet, and they're still working on it. But I am following it all the same. So, as I hit the 30-minute mark there, why don't I talk about my final order on my computer? That has, because some of you may know that my current, well actually, the last computer that I owned, which has now been destroyed for a month now, and I'll clarify what I mean by destroyed, it's been having its issues. The motherboard and the CPU are 7 years old. They were good for the time, but again, the way that computer technology has been moving, or computer hardware that is, has been moving lately, 7 years is a bit too long of a time to be out of the game, so I decided it was time for an upgrade. And that upgrade came in the form of... Why don't I go from the case and in? We have the Fantex into Luke's full tower black case. So essentially this is like the Fantex Primo, except a little bit smaller and with lighting. Not the Fantex Primo. There's another Fantex computer that the Luke's is based off, or the Lux. I don't know. Either way. For CPU cooler, I decided to go with the Corsair Hydro Series H100i. I probably should have gone with the Silverstone Tundra D202, or D202. TO2, DO2, whatever, something like that. But the Corsair Hydra series was the only one that was in stock at the time. And I'll get to some shipping problems in a second. And the memory I decided to go with was the G-Skill Sniper 1866 RAM, so that's the frequency on it. It's got 16 gigabytes, so that's two 8 gigabyte 6. And it is a CL, or a CAS of 9. If you don't know what that is, Google what is CAS on RAM. And then guess what? Your result will pop up. Just like that. For the motherboard, I decided to go with the Gigabyte Z97X Gaming 5 ATX LGA 1150 motherboard. I was going to go with the Gaming 7, but I realized that the Gaming 7 was, number one, out of stock at the time, and number two, pretty much identical to the Gaming 5. A couple extra stuff here, and I didn't really feel like paying another $50 for it. So, despite the fact that it wasn't in stock at the time, so I decided to go with the Gaming 5. For a new power supply, I have the Corsair AX 860i gold, or no, platinum power supply. Essentially, it's a freaking beast of a power supply, and since has Corsair Link software, I can observe directly how much power I am using. And what I'm trying to do on the screen there is I'm trying to hitch a ride on a flash, so I can get to the next objective point. Anyway, I have also, for the actual CPU, I've decided to pick up the Intel Core i7-4790K unlocked processor, simply because I plan to do a little overclocking on the bad boy, and because I don't feel like upgrading to DDR4 yet. Simply because, well, there isn't a lot of good stuff for the DDR4 or X99 chipset yet. So, yeah, that was my final computer build. And you may be going, Hex, what? Weren't you going to order a Vapor 290 from Sapphire? Yes, I was, dear viewer, who has an amazing memory and actually cares enough to watch my videos. Or at least part of them. I was going to. And then, the only retailer that would sell it to me for a reasonable price never actually got back to me when I sent them an email inquiring about their shipping. And I didn't send this a couple days ago. I've sent 3 of them 3 months ago, and they never got back to me. So I'm like, okay, I don't trust these guys because I haven't spoken to them, so I'm not going to order from them. And it's a good thing I kind of waited those 3 months, because in that time the AMD's new 300 series was announced. And essentially what we're going to be getting from the 300 series is that they're aimed to take on the Nvidia's 970 and 980, and the best thing about them is that the 380X, which is the graphics card I plan to pick up, is going to be released in February. That soon. The 390X, which is supposed to compete with the Titan of the Nvidia lineup, is supposed to be released in sometime near the beginning of summer, I believe. And then there's going to be a 370X released in between the two. I believe that was their release schedule. I can't quite remember. Yeah, but anyway, the reason why I'm waiting for it and not just going with the 290 is because, well, if I waited and I wanted more memory, which is kind of what gaming is kind of depending on at this point. It's not how fast the card is. Granted, speed is helpful, but once you hit a certain point, it's really the memory that's holding you back. And my current video card, the XFX HDR7 7950? 7970? I think it's the 7950. Only has, no, it's 7870, that's why. Yeah, R7 7870. Ooh. R7 870. There we go. That makes more sense, Hex. It only has 2 gigabytes of memory on it, so I was going to get the 4 gigabyte 290, but I am going to be waiting for the 4 gigabyte 300 series 380X card. Why? Because even though its components are essentially GDDR5, which is the current memory used in graphics processing, it's going to have HBM, which essentially HBM stands for, I can't remember the actual name, it's, no, Not stock information Google, thank you. That's not the health belief model either, thank you, thank you. No urban dictionary, I do not
Give up. We're still in it.
want to know the definition of HBM. I don't think it would be appropriate for this video. Okay. HBM stands for High Bandwidth Memory Standard. Essentially, it's 3 GDDR5 stacked on top of each other to create this amazingly powerful machine. So essentially, how do I compare this? I actually just look up the AMD stats on, or at least supposed stats on 300 series memory.
I'd actually like to win this
Because there
fight.
was something leaked, but it was leaked to a very not reputable site. It's supposed to be 9 times faster than GDDR5. At least this is what we think it should have. It's supposed to have a 65% reduced form factor. It's supposed to have about 256 gigabytes of bandwidth on it. You can have up to 8 gigabytes
The Vane sovereignty
on
is
the
taking
card, and 8 gigabyte cards. There is a limited run of Sapphire's Vapor 8 gigabyte, but it is like $700. So no, and the only other 8 gigabyte there is there's an Nvidia card and the AMD 295 X2, which has 8 gigabytes in it, and it's supposed to be really good for power efficiency. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. We don't actually know if the 380X is going to contain 4 gigabytes of memory or 8. Either way, 4K video sounds awesome. Recording in 4K video has me crying, but I will be able to record at least in 2K, and maybe not 2K, maybe very high quality 1080, and then I'll just upsize it to 2K, and then upload at 60 FPS. And now since since YouTube has that option, and they're making it available for channels, that is fantastic. Okay, so that's the video card I'm waiting for. And then actually today I mentioned that I had ordered something from the Boxing Day sale. I have ordered the Razer Tartarus gamepad. Essentially, it's a fully programmable gamepad. It's got 25 keys, I believe that's how much was advertised, and with an unlimited amount of profiles. And you can actually set it up so whatever game you're playing, it will switch to the profile corresponding to it, which I think is cool. So I'm gonna test one of the gamepads out. I've always wanted one, just because, well, they look cool, and I wanted to test out how they feel. If I don't like it, I can always just switch back to keyboard, but it is interesting to figure out what it looks like. Or not what it looks like, but at least what it feels like to use one. I have also decided to go with a new mouse. If you've watched my preview video, you know I will be getting I have ordered and will be getting the G502 Proteus Core, which is a fully tunable optical laser mouse. My current mouse is the Corsair Vengeance M60, and it's a laser. And I've kind of been put off laser mice recently, simply because they don't track very well on surfaces that are unknown to them. Or at least, some surfaces that tracking isn't very great. So, yeah, I'll be switching over to optical, which actually takes pictures. And the Proteus Core, G502, it has its own processor in it to help it figure out where everything's going, and prediction software, and all that cool stuff. I'm going to be turning mouse acceleration off, I always do. I even disable it in Windows. But it does look awesome, and it's fully tunable, a lot of DPI, and it's, DPI is, whenever you're buying a mouse, do not look for and you think that quality is related to DPI, don't think that. That's not at all how it works. Granted, a high DPI is good, but it's not everything. So, yeah, that's what I have ordered today from NCIX. Just because they're based out of... actually, one of their warehouses is rather close to where I live, so the shipping is, like, minimal. And since I did have an order over $50 and under 200 pounds, I got free shipping, so yay. Ironically, that will arrive before my computer. Or at least it should, based on their shipping estimate that they gave me. And speaking of which, moving on to what is currently happening with the computer. I do not blame anybody at NCIX for having this much of a delay, because I did order the computer on Black Friday, and it's just coming up to now when they're finally getting all the parts, despite the fact when I ordered it, every single part that I ordered was in stock except for the RAM, which I'd already talked to the supplier about, and they were sending some way to, or I had talked to a rep at NCIX, and they had gotten the supplier to send some to them already, and it was on the way as I was ordering it. So, yeah. The H100i cooler, it appears that all the models they had ended up being defective models. So they essentially said we can swap it out for you for a different cooler, or you can just wait till the end of the month. The end of the month being December. I elected to wait, simply because they would not be getting a Silverstone shipment in that time, and the NZXT ones, I didn't really like the way they were designed. So I decided to wait. My RAM came in a couple days ago, and now essentially we're just waiting for the cooler to arrive. And that should be here soon, so you'll have regular videos back. And that explains why I have not been posting any videos for, words. Assassin's Creed, or any of my main series, or basically any series for that matter. Also, because there are certain times of the year with what I do when it gets highly busy. Christmas is one of those times. Basically every place has that problem. But Christmas is a particularly bad time. Oh god. I'm watching the gameplay footage. That was stupid of me. Yeah, just go and jump right into them. Fantastic idea. Also, the beginning of summer and September are busy times for me too. Yeah. So that's part of the explanation as to why there are no videos. That at least covers 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Then before that, it was the computer that actually gave me issues. My computer, I've been without a main computer, a desktop computer, for about a month now, because I sent off the current video card and a hard drive and a Windows install disk to NCIX to have them install in the computer. Because they were super nice and allowed me to do that. Probably because I was super nice to them, but yeah, they allowed me to do that. And yeah, so essentially I have destroyed my old desktop. I've scrapped it and put all the parts in their respective boxes and sold off a couple as well. And yeah, so no desktop computer. The good thing is that all my Steam games, or all of my games, since I did a massive computer storage upgrade, they have been moved to a separate 2 terabyte hard drive, and they're all ready to go. So essentially, I just need to plug it in, put in the right drivers, and then link Steam to the Steam library location, and bingo bango, we have them all back again. Thankfully, Uplay will allow me to do that as well. Oh no, sorry. Origin will allow me to do that as well, but Uplay will not. I have to actually separately install each of the Assassin's Creed games again. This is why I'm not a big fan of Ubisoft at the moment. Yeah, that's what's going on with my computer situation. I do plan on upgrading to a different headset. I want to go with the HyperX Cloud headset, simply because it looks awesome, and it's got a detachable boom mic. So if the mic that the headset does come with is crappy, I can always pick up a different mic. And as for a keyboard, if I could switch to a new one, I don't really see one that's good right now. I'm not, because what's been the rage is color options, like the Razer Chroma or the Logitech Spark, something like that, or Corsair's RGB keyboard. I can't remember the actual name of it, but I've never really been that one for lighting. I mean, like, my current keyboard is blue backlit, and that's been fine for me. I don't really need pulsating effects or amazing stuff like that, and this is actually a bit of a moment that I'm proud of. I go on a bit of a kill rampage in this particular area because I'm a spawn camper, and also I am a camper, and I have no shame about it. It's an effective strategy. It can get a little ridiculous, but you're just gonna have to suck it up. So yeah, I haven't really been interested in any keyboards of late. When they start coming out with something actually innovative, instead of, hey, we're gonna make something that's existed since 1989 more expensive. And also, you're gonna get 16.8 million colors, except my software is gonna be so crappy that you can't actually access all of them. Ha! Corsair. So, yeah. Haven't really chosen a new keyboard yet. And monitors, actually. Well, I do want to get a new actual speaker sound system, because I don't always game with a headset. Even though my headset is awesome currently, I don't always use it. I do sometimes game with speakers, because my speaker setup, I've got a Logitech Z4s. Yeah, they're really, really old. I got them in 2004, I want to say. Maybe 2005. I can't remember. Maybe even 2006. I cannot remember what year I got these in. Essentially, they're bloody old, but they still work amazingly. I like a high amount of bass when I'm listening to music, and whether I'm gaming or not, simply because bass, I don't know, I can hear really well when there's a lot of bass around. And I can pick up footsteps like that. I can tell which direction explosions were at, like, the drop of a hat, and it makes it so much easier. So yeah, that's why I like speaker setups as well as headset quality. Audio to me is very important. I'm in no way an audiophile, but I do like good audio. And then for a screen, I plan on upgrading to a monitor with FreeSync. And FreeSync is in AMD's response to NVIDIA's G-Sync technology. Well, G-Sync is based on hardware, so essentially your monitor has to be compatible with it. I have wanted to go with AMD's FreeSync. I am a Team Red. I am on Team Red, I'm not a Team Green, simply because the way AMD, yeah, driver problems. You do get that, but the reason why you have driver problems is due to programming. And I know a thing or two about programming. Essentially, what's happened is NVIDIA does a lot of post-processing effects. So shadow rendering, tessellation, all that stuff. The game does stuff, and then NVIDIA's software tacks on stuff to it. And that's kind of the power of the heavy salt that I just demonstrated right there. It just, with activating your shield and letting rip with the LMG, you can take out two people when they're firing at you for the entire time. Granted, they're missing a lot of it, but it's still, you're still quite powerful. But I've decided to, I've always been an AMD fan, despite the fact that my laptop has a 660M in it, but yeah, it's a good laptop anyway. I've always been an AMD fan, simply because AMD, their processing is all done in code. There is next to no post-processing for them. And to me, that sounds like a more elegant solution. It's actually affecting the programming, not stuff tacked on. So yeah, that's why I decided to go with AMD, and also the FreeSync. It doesn't require hardware. It's all software-based. And FreeSync or G-Sync, if you don't know what either of those are, essentially when you're moving really fast on screens this time in the year, you might get jagged tearing. Essentially, it looks like there's a line going across. I get it all the time in my Skyrim playthrough. You guys have probably seen it once or twice. Essentially, what G-Sync or FreeSync do is that it forces the GPU to render frames in time with what you're seeing. So it eliminates screen tearing entirely, which has been a major problem affecting gamers. And with that gone, we're actually going to be able to enjoy the game and only have to deal with netcode or, air quotes, netcode, and lag. But of course, lag will almost always be present because, well, distances and communication via cables. A lot better than wireless communication or satellite communication, because cables are always going to be faster, because physical is better than non-physical. I did a brief stint as an IT guy, filling in for a friend, and I had a complaint one day that his phone wasn't connecting to his Wi-Fi. So I tried to figure out what the problem was. He said, I went through my usual checklist of phone connectivity issues. Nothing was the matter there. So I asked him how many devices he had in his home. This guy had a couple kids, and his wife had a tablet and a phone and a laptop and a TV in their room, and that was all connected to the Wi-Fi. Their kids each have a phone, a tablet, and the son had a laptop, and the girl had a second tablet, all connected to the Wi-Fi. He had 2 laptops, a desktop that was connected via a wireless card, and a TV in his office that was all connected to the Wi-Fi. And they had so many smart products in their home that were all connected to the Wi-Fi as well, and they had a Wi-Fi range extender. Can you begin to see the problem? Too many signals. I think they also had 2 microwaves. It was ridiculous how much interference they had in their house. So essentially I told them to switch to wired, and it cleared up all problems that they were having. So wired will always be better, simply because, well, direct communication, there is no loss and there is no time delay. Well, virtually no time delay. The fastest cable we currently have is an optical cable. So light transference, nothing can move faster than light. Einstein has proven this. Of course, physics has been kind of going up-downsy lately, so we don't actually know if Einstein is correct. But I'm going to operate that he is, because E equals mc squared, it's a pretty solid basis. And if we do have to, if he was wrong, then guess what? All the physics we has is going to be out the window. None of it will make sense anymore. Yeah, I just took a rocket in the gameplay. I just took a rocket to the face. Thank you, shields. Heavy assault is awesome. But we're approaching an hour. I'm at 57 minutes in my recording here. Holy crap. My voice is killing me. I'll have to pick up the other hour tomorrow, because I'm not going to be able to keep talking without at least a bit of a break, or a drink, which I did not get around to grabbing. But yeah, that gives you a brief overview of all the news gaming related that's happened. I've missed probably a lot of important stuff, but yeah, I didn't feel like scrolling that far back in my Facebook feed. And explains my absences and my computer situation, what's going to be happening in the future, and yes, there will be a New Year's Eve special, or a New Year's Day special rather, kind of like the one I did last year with gameplay and me just talking about what the future of the channel is for that year. And I will be going ahead with the changes that I have outlined in Multiplayer Mondays episode 31. Essentially, all series are going to be switched to a weekly schedule. So, say every Tuesday is Assassin's Creed Revelations, then Wednesday is Far Cry 4, and then this is just a random games and random dates out of my head. And Thursday, say, is Commander Mode or something like that. I don't know. Wednesday will probably still be Commander Mode, and then Thursday will probably be... I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but essentially 1 video per day, because I cannot handle 3 videos a day anymore. Time is as always run out on the period in which I am able to do that. So yeah, it'll be easier on me, and maybe it'll be a little bit easier on you guys, because I was getting some complaints that I was overwhelming people with the number of videos that I put out. And there was a time where I did a series and I did a video on it every day, and oops, started to get next to no views because people just couldn't keep up with watching it anymore. And this is me being stupid. I'm trying to use an LMG. An LMG is traditionally not good for range. I'm trying to use an LMG to take on a sniper. The sniper just now noticed me. And there we go, bullet to the face. Oops. So yeah, that is the part 1 of this giant 2-hour recording special. I do not know why you guys are watching this far in, but if you have, I would like to thank you. You are a trooper. Please stick around for the remaining hour, because it will be equally embarrassing and... well, you're not gonna believe this, but apparently Windows Movie Maker narration option apparently has a limit of an hour. So I was cut off there at the end, but anyway, it essentially amounted to, I will see you guys in a couple seconds, and allow myself to continue right now.